Welcome to The Breakdown by Social Apex, where we take you behind the scenes on an in-depth experience through the content that we produce and how we create stories that connect to the modern consumer. Let's get to it. How's it going, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of The Breakdown by Social Apex. For this first episode, we're going to be digging into a piece titled A New Normal that we created in collaboration with Charlie Hustle at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. The purpose of this piece was to show what the new reality under COVID-19 restrictions was like, and to more importantly give thanks to all the frontline workers who made sacrifices every day to keep our community safe. From the very beginning, we knew that the imagery and the narrative selected was going to be important in presenting this purpose in an authentic way. We not only wanted the frontline workers to hear our message, but we wanted them to feel it too. So let's get into the video. All right, so for this first frame, we wanted to select an image that really embodied the Kansas City vibe, right? So Union Station is a major staple, of course, of Kansas City, so felt very much so contextual to start this piece off with the right tone by selecting a place that everyone recognizes as a piece of Kansas City. So also you'll notice that we have dialogue from Chase McAnulty, the CEO of Charlie Hustle, which really helps to drive the narrative of this piece as we discussed before. So we'll let it play out for a couple seconds.
What even is the new normal? Normal was supposed
waving,
to be getting ready for
lighting.
prom night or a nice meal.
We land on Rock Hill Grill, obviously contextual with what Chase is talking about, but we wanted to make sure we were promoting local business at the same time, not just putting in any stock filler or anything like that, but really creating an authentic look at some of the small businesses here in Kansas City, along with promoting the city itself and the frontline workers message.
Restaurant. It was a stroll through the
So then here we land on the plaza shot. Couple of these throughout the video. We do shoot most of the time when we're doing exteriors, especially with drone, when the sun is setting, gives us a much more high contrast feel. You can see that the lighting here from the sun probably was around 5 or 6 o'clock when we did this. And you can see that the effect, right? That sun setting, it's getting blocked by these buildings right here a little bit. So in effect, those are that negative, which is blocking it, giving us the shadow over here. And then also all these light rays, which is giving us a really nice balanced image in general.
Plaza in the anticipation of pool season or the excitement of baseball at the K, which typically meant a new.
So for then this shot, we wanted to obviously continue to tap into imagery that really resonated with Kansas Cityans. And of course, the K and Arrowhead are a big piece of that. So for this one, we, of course, are getting a rotating shot around the stadium, obviously using some sound effects that evoke the feeling of being at the Kauffman with some of that baseball SFX. And really, we wanted to just make sure that we're capturing that energy and remembering, we are this champion city. We have done some amazing things, and that energy also translates to how we see our frontline workers and the people that are fighting for us on a day-to-day basis. So it's, again, some more of that analogous texture where we're trying to show the things that we're proud of as Kansas Cityans also can be found in the day-to-day things that people are doing in Kansas City, not only frontline workers, but teachers, educators, firemen, police, etc., that are putting their lives on the line to protect our community.
Season of hope. While many things have unexpectedly changed or seemingly evaporated
Early
into
morning
thin
shot. And then here we wanted to get a good, a good image to show that, downtown area was pretty much, there was nothing going on at all. So what we see here is an image of the streetcar, which was just stationed because the streetcars weren't really running that much because there was really nobody downtown. So this was in an effort to really build that context to show, like, look, we are standing still. This is the new space that we're in right now. Hopefully it gets better. But at the time last year, there was really nothing going on. We're talking April, May, June. It was even cold in April still. And so there wasn't a whole lot happening. And this was another effort on our part to continue to hammer home the fact that it was pretty much barren in downtown Kansas City.
Of an unwavering spirit.
This is a super important shot. We'll go back to it. Obviously, we wanted to continue to every frame reinforce the Kansas City element, right? And so in this shot, one of the more powerful shots of this video, we have the Casey Hart flying high right next to the Bond Bridge, if I'm correct, gave us a really good image that really connected to what Chase was talking about in his his dialogue, right? So he's talking about the unwavering spirit. So this was, again, not only a powerful shot because we have some Kansas City imagery and the Casey Hart, but also it connects to what Chase was talking about in the actual dialogue, right? So again, we're continuously reinforcing what Chase is saying with the imagery. Everything in this video is about that synchronicity, driving that connection between the shot, between the way that it's shot, as well as the narrative underlying it. Again, these all work together to present a unified message, which in effort becomes more authentic feeling. And we then from there have a message that really drives that purpose from the beginning, right? We want to make those frontline workers really feel what we're trying to say. And so to do that, it's not about just saying it or just showing it. We need to create these unions, and we need to create this sort of like visual poetry so that it makes them feel a certain way so that they really retain what we're trying to say.
Spirit continues to be the heartbeat.
So this shot here was the Marriott. Obviously, this was a very, very early morning shot. We're talking like 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. We wanted to make sure to get when the sun was starting to come up, but it hadn't peaked yet. We wanted to make sure that we were balancing the amounts of shots that were in the day as well as at night, right? So we didn't want to have too much during the day or too much at night. We wanted to really make it feel like this was over the course of many months, and that it was stretched out over a long period of time. So to do that, a small effect was just for us to shoot at different times of day, which really presented that feeling of like time moving forward, things advancing, etc. So if we keep going forward, so then this period of time, I'll let this play out for a couple seconds. This was, again, about 5-6 a.m. In the Power and Light District, and it was completely barren, right? So this was around April. There was nobody really coming to work, doing much. Around 6 a.m. is very, very busy time in general in the financial district of Kansas City. So these next couple frames were to show, like, look at what the state is right now, not in a sense to make a pessimistic point of view, but more so just to illustrate, like, this is where we're at right now, right? So to really have it sink in what the situation really entailed.
That reminds us of what it means to be a Kansas Citian.
So then this was, again, another reinforcer, right? So we're going to see a transition out of this shot that was really important for this video. We have another, kind of panning movement around the stadium. This one is Arrowhead this time, and we wanted to, again, evoke that Kansas City pride, the Kansas City emotion, but then again connect it back to the story. So to do that, we continue to play this out. Okay, so then we show the image of them cheering. Everyone's crazy, excited because we had just won the Super Bowl. This was a huge moment for Kansas City, and a very big sense of pride is attached to this moment for us. And so, again, to explain the situation of where we're at with COVID, but not to make it negative, we wanted to connect these experiences and show, like, hey, this is who we are as Kansas Cityans. And then when we show you what it looks like in the present day, which was mid-year last year, that sense is still there, right? Like, people aren't around necessarily, but that doesn't mean that Kansas City pride needs to disappear. Again, this is nuanced communication. We're not outwardly saying these things, but because if we did that, we wouldn't get the effect that we're looking for. We want to be nuanced. We want to be really, specific with how we're dishing this out in a very creative way, because if we want someone to understand something, we want them to feel it. And to get them to feel the right thing, we have to be really proper with, the imagery and the colors and all that stuff. So we'll keep going. As you can see, actually, before we go through, we have, I'm going to pick a different color because that is too blue or red. So if you see right here, we've got all of this right here, all of this spacing. So then for this next shot,
so maybe
we have the same exact spot that we felt this immense sense of pride at, completely reconstructed almost at the exact same angle to show what it looked like in the middle of the day in Power and Light during the height of COVID, right? So again, this isn't to make people feel bad about it. It's to explain to them that whether there's people at Power and Light or not, whether they're in financial district or not, that essence of pride is always resonating throughout, right? So again, Chase's narrative is continuing to hammer that home too. Without the narrative, we'd still be communicating these pieces, but with the dialogue underneath, it's giving us like this kind of trifecta, hitting it really hard so people understand like, what is this feeling I'm supposed to feel, right? So then we'll keep going back. Well, actually, we'll go forward.
New normal is an opportunity, a chance for us to come together.
So then this shot was pretty important to us because in the script, Chase actually says, we need to come together, right? And so obviously we have the shot of it, the Casey Hart, and it says come together. Shout out to Ampersand Design Studio for their mural on that part. But it was, again, another way to subliminally communicate, right? So when Chase says come together, and we show the same image and it's next to the Casey Hart, he's not saying anything specific about what that should mean to you, but it makes you feel a certain way. When he is saying it and you see it and you feel the music building and the narrative building, it's again, another reinforcer of like, whoa, okay, I feel something. I feel this Kansas City pride churning, burning, like, what is this, right? And so we can start to get to the end portion of the video. So we'll keep going here.
Make things better and improve upon where we left off.
See shot of the plaza.
To inspire others
Black Magic here.
By leading through kindness.
But this shot was, really fun shot to get. Took us a little bit of time to get properly placed, but obviously, again, we wanted imagery of Kansas City that was important to Kansas Cityans, that made them feel like this is my city, right? We wanted them to feel that energy. So we've got so much depth, right? Like we've got real close-up depth, we've got depth that's farther away, and then we have the actual sign that is literally moving,
like many others during this,
and changing while we're in the shot, right? And so the biggest part about that is you have to remember that the Western Auto sign shuts off when it's during the day. So we had to get this shot like right as the sun rose. I think this was probably 6:30 in the morning. So we had to make sure to time this correctly, right? Like this is some of the stuff that you don't ever see, but timing is so critical when it comes to capturing the right image. Yeah, you could have a good idea of what you want, but if you go and you're not planning for the sun, planning for some of these logistical things, you're actually not going to get the shot that you're looking for, right? So
like many others during this
another shot
time,
of Kansas
our
City,
business has changed.
Barren, right? This
but our passion to make this city a better place to live remains the same.
Another drone shot of the city. So this one's really a beautiful image. And again, this is what happens when you shoot in a high contrast situation, typically at sunset, or if you're lucky, you have like some big gear for negative fill and all this other stuff. But generally we use what Earth has given us, the sun setting and rising. But in this image specifically, you can see the value of it, right? Like we see some of these little like shadows and stuff all coming from this way, but the image literally looks like a painting. And it's because none of the colors are washed out. We've got this good separation of color. We've got these reds and greens. And then on top of that, we have the blue up here that's really compounding on that effect. Like this shot was really, really pretty to me. And again, a lot of it is because of, Quincy being a great drone pilot, but also on top of that, scheduling and planning when to get this shot. If this was shot during the day, it would have been a very low contrast. It would be muted. Colors would be much less appealing, right? So again, each frame has to be taken into consideration very carefully, because this shot would have been effective if it was less colored or if it was shot in the middle of the day, but it wouldn't subconsciously feel right? It needs to have continuation of the same color and feel of the rest of the video. So here, these were clips that we sourced from Charlie Hustle to show them creating the masks, right? So now, as we get to the end of the video, we're getting to the, the point, right? Well, the point was that, not only does all of Kansas City stand behind these frontline workers, but Charlie Hustle in specific is actually working around the clock to provide resources for frontline workers through their mask agenda, which was just really getting it out to everyone, right? There were so many different initiatives to make sure that people were wearing masks consumer side, but also wearing masks to protect the frontline workers and also to get these frontline workers masks, because in the beginning, they didn't have proper access to PPE. So this was an effort on Charlie Hustle to not only show them like, hey, we're doing this, but it's also to be like, this is why we're doing this. We're making these masks because we want to support you all. We want to make a difference and make an impact in the city in a real way. So this couple frame grabs were just to set that context.
We are grateful for the ability to help
awesome
our
drone shot
workers and the people that need it.
Okay, so this part is really important. This was like a good example of like very much so synchronicity, right? So we have, I'm going to let it play out for a second, but you can see that the actual imagery is connected to the story and the purpose of the video. It's connected to the music, and it's connected to what Chase is saying all at once. So it's creating this harmony internally when I watch it for me and for viewers to be like, wow, this is really connecting with me. Not necessarily because the message only is there, that's a part of it, but it's also because of this beautiful harmony and union that we're finding with the music and the dialogue and the imagery. So you can watch that the music actually dictates when
the people that need it most. And we appreciate your trust that has allowed us to move forward as a business and continue to spread joy.
We come to a close. This is our last shot, another iconic shot of Kansas City. We've got, this was just an amazing framing job. You wouldn't even notice, but we have, this is definitely like a 70 millimeter shot, really pushed in. We cropped in a lot for this one because there was probably double in the frame than what is showing on the video. But we wanted a good balance of a composition. So we've got this depth here from the scout statue. And then we have him looking over, Kansas City as a city, right? And so again, remember, we have some shots during the middle of the day. We have some shots during nighttime. We have some shots at high noon, right? So we're having this major amount of contrast to make it feel like this is taking over the course of many months, when in reality, it probably took us about 3 weeks or so to shoot. So then, for the close, we have a graphic.
Thank you for supporting us, so we
by Charlie Hustle
can support them.
To finish things out, and obviously Chase's dialogue kind of closes out the narrative. And that is the end of the video. We'll let it play out for a second. So again, with this piece, the main purpose, right, was to show the frontline workers that we saw them as a community and appreciated them, right? So just telling them that would be great and they would feel it. But when you tell someone something, they don't necessarily always take it to heart. So how could we show imagery of Kansas City to connect to that sense of pride, not only for the frontline workers, but also just the regular everyday people of Kansas City, to create this feeling like we're all in this together, right? We're all here, we see you, we recognize the support that you need to do your job as a frontline worker. And so there's a lot of ways that you can say that, but with Chase's narrative compounded with the images that we chose, this was the best way that we found in collaboration with Charlie Hustle to push this narrative of like, look at this city, look at the beautiful place that we live. Like, we all are from the same space. This energy of the Kansas City heart is beating throughout. And to put on top of that, it's this continual repetition of thank you and gratefulness to the frontline workers. So that is really how this piece came together, right? Like I said, there was a lot of shoots at 4, 5, 6 a.m. A lot of really early mornings for this one to get the right shots, because especially when you're taking shots of all landscape, right? I don't think there was a single shot in here of a person, because that was another thing that you will notice. The only shot of the person is here during the Super Bowl. The rest of this is there's no people. I guess there is when we show the cell phone footage, but all in all, it's this feeling that people aren't here. They're not in the city, but that doesn't mean they're gone. They're still here, right? The heart is continuously beating through the Kaufman, through through Sporting, and through their support of the city, through the Casey Hart. We've got stuff at Arrowhead, right? So again, we're continuously reinforcing the fact that during this period of a new normal, that the heart is continuously beating, and our support for the people that protected us during this COVID-19 pandemic is always there, and that we really wanted to drive that home. So that is really the breakdown of this piece, and something that, this video is a great example of, it looks like it's just a bunch of shots of some landscape, but really when you tie those into the proper time of day, you connect it to a dialogue and to a narrative and to a story, and you connect it to a certain amount of, flow in a story, it becomes so much greater, right? So with that, this is going to be the end of our first episode for the breakdown. Longer video than I ever expected it to be. But again, this is something that we really care about here at Social Apex. That's important to us. Showing you all what goes into everything that we create and why we select and do the things that we do, and how we get some of that energy out into the stories that we develop. So thank you so much for your time, and stay tuned for the next episode.